Go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Carl Coe with ImagineTime. First, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. Right now we have 125 firms that have joined us. Now 127 and more are joining as we go here. It's amazing to me the response that we get to these sessions. It's really gratifying and exciting to know that folks want to learn more about ImagineTime and how to use it more effectively. If you imagine 5 people in a firm, just as a round number, and we have over 175 firms signed up to attend today. That's upwards of nearly 1,000 people that will be joining this session, and that's just great. So as we get started here, I'm going to run through the agenda. I'm going to introduce a few folks. From there, we're going to go into what's new in version 17.5, which is being released. Provide a quick reminder of the help desk and knowledge base that's there for all of you to use at any time to help you get answers to your questions whenever you need them. We're going to do a very quick, brief demo of the ImagineShare Outlook plugin. So you may know that we've released a client portal. The most compelling piece that folks are finding about the client portal is this Outlook plugin. So we want to give you a look at that to see how it works. And then finally, or next, and most importantly, we're going to go deep into the training. And today, as the title illustrates, we're going to focus on year-end preparation. And we really have 3 or 4 main areas that we're going to go into for year-end prep that we think will help you immensely towards the end of the year here. And then finally, Fred is going to talk to us about year-end realization reports, year-end client and staff performance reports, which are a great strength of ImagineTime and hopefully will help all of you get the most out of the tool. We are a practice management company, and we take that very seriously, practice management. The idea of our entire platform is to help you run your firm more effectively, more efficiently, and more profitably. And these year-end reports that Fred's going to highlight are important for that. A couple of housekeeping items. We do have Q&A. You'll be able to submit a question at any time. We will try to answer them on the fly. If any questions, well, we'll try to answer them throughout via text, but at the end, if we have enough time, we'll be trying to answer any questions that we didn't get to in the text. And then in closing, we're going to announce a special offer we have for our due date and workflow product. One other quick thing, we have 2 poll questions that we want to ask the audience today. We want to ask you about e-signature, something that we're releasing shortly, and we're going to ask you about due date and workflow as we go here. So with that, again, a gigantic thank you to everyone for taking the time to join this session. And we're going to continue to do these on a regular basis. And the goal of these sessions is to help you be more effective with our software. And if there's anything that we could be doing better, please let us know along the way. So the main point that I want to make on the 17.5 release, not necessarily the highlights of the release itself, although there are some really strong features that many of you have requested. One in particular I want to highlight is a new super bill template for fixed fee services. Whether you have monthly or quarterly or annual fees that are fixed fee, the super bill templates super bill template will allow you to really get a good sense of what your recurring revenue stream looks like. So that's a big one. The broader point I want to make on the 17.5 release, every day we talk to clients that we find out they're still on version 11 or version 12 or version 16 or whatever it may be. And we want to reiterate that there are hundreds and hundreds of features that get released over time. And if you're not uploading the new or downloading the new release, which you can do straight from the software, and Tom's going to show you that, or you can do it from the website, If you're not downloading the new release, you're missing out on a lot of enhancements that we make. And those enhancements, 90% of the time, are driven by customer request. So that's the broader point here. We will have the release notes on 17.5 on the website. But the more important point, we want you to check what release you're on and making sure that you're staying up to date with us. And for those of you that are on our cloud product, you get the latest releases automatically. Those are not, that's part of the benefit of being on a cloud platform. The next thing I want to highlight are the help desk and the knowledge base. So this is a screenshot of the homepage, and I've circled the support. And now I'm going to go straight to ImagineTime.com. And if you'll go to go to the support drop down, and it takes us automatically to our knowledge base and all of our artifacts, including, we've got over 40 videos, we've got the entire ImagineTime manual, we've got the FAQs, we've got the take a tour videos, the full training curriculum is here. There are thousands of pieces of information here on the website that we want to make sure you're aware of. And the knowledge base and the online manual itself should be very valuable to you, and we don't want you to forget about it. I think a lot of folks aren't aware that this exists, and we want to continue to reiterate it on each of these training sessions. So next, from there, I'm going to kick it over to Jason Goldfinger. Jason is our head of sales, joined us from Citrix ShareFile, and has been an incredible asset for us in developing and creating our client portal. There's probably nobody in the industry that's talked to more accounting firms about securing share files than Jason, and he's just been a great asset. You'll notice,
not, Carl.
You'll notice at the bottom here, we've got e-signature. Our e-signature product is being released in the next couple of weeks. And I want to ask a quick poll question of the audience around e-signature. I'm going to go ahead and launch it, and just answer it on your own time here. The question is, do you use the e-signature software? Yes, we're happy with it. Yes, but interested in learning more about ImagineTime. And then finally, or the final two, no, we would like to. And then the last is no, never, with a typo from Carl. So I apologize for that. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jason. Jason, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you'll show us in just 2, 3, 4 minutes, the ImagineTime client portal with, most importantly, the plugin.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and show my screen here. You guys should be able to see my my son Oakley here on the screen, and I'll bring up my Outlook. So this is designed to be for your clients that are they don't love using the portal, they don't love usernames and passwords, and if you're trying to get your firm to move over towards reducing the paper or going paperless, this is a really good way to do that. So you'll basically have a little plugin inside of your Outlook that says Secure Send. So when you click on that, you'll have 2 different options here: send files or request files. I'll send files first. So we have our, is the poll done, or should I
You're good. You're good. Okay. Just keep going.
Oh, it's asking me the poll. Sorry. So we have Tom Hanks, our client here, and we need to send him his 1040. You can drag and drop, or you can click to upload. I'll add the 1040 as normal here. There's a few different ways you can secure this document on the client's end. You can send it as they can just receive it with the link, or we can ask them a secret question. So we can ask them, what's your zip code, what's the last 4 of your social, what's the last 4 of your phone number, or you can create your own. I prefer to do the last 4 of the phone number. And I'll just type in 1, 2, 3, 4 to make this easy. I create that link. It's added to the email as an encrypted attachment. It will no longer be sent as a full file through public email servers. This is sent as an encrypted link. We click send, and that's it. Now, on top of the security, you'll also be able to send much larger files than normal whenever you send through this method. So QuickBooks files can be sent or received through the way I just showed you. When the client receives it on their end, no matter what email service they're using, it doesn't matter. It will still come from your email address. When they click download attachments, it will bring them to a screen that will have your company's logo. I'm using Michael Jordan CPA here. And it'll ask them, what's the last four of your phone number? I type in 1234, click continue, and I have my 1040 that I can open up just like that. It's a lot easier than using a client portal system. The majority of accounting firms that we talk to have about a 5 to a 20% adoption rate. Even if you're higher than that, if you want to get the other people using something, or get them off of paper or mail or fax, this is a really good way to do it. That was on the sending side. On the receiving end, so if you need clients to send you sensitive files or large files, let's say I need a W-2 from Tom Hanks, I'll just send him an email saying, please send to me when you can. Click on secure send, and the other option here is request files. So when I create that link, it will automatically paste into the email, click here to upload files. So when the client clicks on that, it will bring them to this screen. I didn't have to create an account for this client. I didn't have to sign them up for anything. They don't have to sign up for anything. They can just click on that link, and they can send you as many sensitive files or large files as they need to and submit it right over to you. That's in that situation, though, I was sending them an email saying, hey, I need these files from you, click here to do it. You don't want to have to do that for every single client. So what you can do is take that request a file link and just embed it into your signature. So they can go to any email you've ever corresponded with them on. They can click this link at any time, and it will bring them to this screen. And I think I'm sending it over to Tom next. So Tom, if you want to take over, it's all you.
Thank you, Jason. This is Carl again. This has been wildly popular with clients and new customers. This whole idea of using a client portal is a good and important thing, but very low adoption rates for most clients. And by using the Outlook plugin that Jason just highlighted, it raises the adoption by your clients dramatically. They don't have to remember passwords. They don't remember websites, etc. It's just right there. So off to you, Tom. And now we're gonna begin the remainder of our time together is going to be the deep detail in the training focused on year end.
Okay, and good afternoon, everybody. I've got my mouse or a little red dot there so everybody can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go into my demo of ImagineTime here. And I do want to mention just a little bit about this screen. Carl mentioned, the version that you're on. Right from the login screen, or even before you log into the system, if you click on the ImagineTime logo, it will get you to the About screen. This lets me see my program version right here. I'm sorry, data file version and my program version right here. Also, which access runtime I'm using. And my company name and registration number, so that that's the information I need to log into the download page of our website and download updates. You can also do updates from within the program. I'll touch on that in a second. But this screen gives you all the pertinent information about the version that you're currently on and your registered company information. Now, come back over, and I'm going to log in here. And now this first screen that comes up here, I'm going to touch just a little bit on this. Do want one quick thing about the upgrade too. If you come up to File in the top left corner and go to Update ImagineTime right here, that will check our website. And even if there's a minor update from the version that you're currently on, not an announced update, it will still get that and start the download process for you. And that takes care of making sure you get the proper one for the runtime version of ImagineTime that you're using. So it automates that process quite a bit for you. But I'm going to go back over, and that's basically the upgrade process there. And again, if you're on the cloud, you don't have to worry about that because it's handled from our side. Now, this first screen that comes up here is actually part of our workflow management. If you're utilizing that, and if you're on the cloud, you have both the due date and the workflow pieces of the puzzle there. And this is a little bit cluttered here because I'm seeing multiple steps for the same thing. And one nice thing about our workflow is that we have what we refer to as a relay handoff of items. So I would only see the current step that should be being worked on currently for any given task here. Likewise, if I'm assigned step 4 of a task, I won't see it in my list till step 3 has been marked completed. And we'll cover that setup a little bit more in a bit here. Okay, and actually from here, I'm going to jump over to calendar and due dates and manage edit deadlines. And I'm going to let Chad talk to you a bit about setting up this screen and utilization of it. So let me hand off control here. Bear with me 1 second. And Chad, you have it there.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tom. And as Tom mentioned, so this is going to be your manage and edit deadline screen. So I'm going to be able to really drill down into a singular task and understand all of the specific details about that task, including like who's associated with it, what staff, what manager is associated with it, what's the actual task ID, what year is it, et cetera, et cetera. And then two very important things to note for year end are going to be more notes and your subtask or your status levels. What this is going to let you do is understand kind of where you're at with the project, and I'll come back to that later and really reiterate on that. What you're also going to see on this window is a list of all of the tasks that are matching whatever filters you have set for this screen. So if I go over here and go to show task filters, you'll see it up here in the top left, and I click that. Oh, there's my highlight. And I click that, I can actually choose any sort of filter that I want. So for this example, I'll go ahead and choose 1040s, so do personal, and I'll do corpse. So I'll come down to 1120s. I'll scroll down a little bit too far. Sorry about that. Oh, there we go. I'll go ahead and select that one as well. And then I can go ahead and say and you can do partners, managers, clients, activities, staff, contacts. For this, I'll just go ahead and use these that I've done here, and I'll go ahead and say set filters. And then you'll notice that this filter just came through. It did all of my years, so I can actually probably run this again and eliminate some of these years. So let me do 2018. We'll set that filter. Oh. Do 2017, have a little bit more exciting one that doesn't just have one. Okay, well, sorry about that, guys. Tom, do you want to come to my
I think there's more farther. I think there's more farther back, Chad. Go back to 2015.
Yeah, farther back in time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Let me go ahead and just grab 20.
We weren't going to let you. We weren't going to let you drown on that.
I was going to say I was sitting here with one task. I was like, I can't really show much with the filtering with one task for them, so that's not very helpful.
You also want to just mention that those blue shaded items are completed ones, unless you want to filter for just the ones that aren't complete.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we'll go ahead and, since we're at end of year and we're wanting to look at those tasks that aren't completed yet, I'll go ahead and set that so we can get rid of those completed tasks. And then I'll go ahead and hide this so we don't have to look at it. And all this is going to ask is, do you want to set these filter settings whenever you come back to this window? So it's whether we want to have these settings sticky or not. And I'll just go ahead and hit cancel on that for now. But now what we can do is we can actually come through this list and we can identify, obviously we're a little weird here with the years because my filtering, I was a pro at filtering it all. But if we click through here, I can actually get an understanding for each of these tasks where we stand. And if you look down here in the bottom, you can actually see a progress bar where you're at with the status. And you can also see if there's any notes there, if you see the red hyperlink with the underline. And if I drill in to do more notes here, I can actually read that note and see what it said. So extra time needed to reconcile fixed asset additions, client missing installment note. So that just gives you a little bit of context and understanding of, okay, well, this 1120, you know, we're getting towards the end of the year. Why is it only 87.5% complete? Why aren't we 100% complete? You can use those notes to get a little context behind that. So another great thing here is as you're going through this list, if you come across a task, let's say, for example, Virginia Bartlett, and, you know, maybe she's just a big pain, or maybe she lied about some of her information, or maybe you just simply don't want to work with her next year and she doesn't want to, you know, pay more fees or have the fees increase next year. Maybe we're going to just terminate her engagement with us. We can select not to roll forward her tasks to next year. So we would just check the do not clone checkbox as we're going through this methodology of end of year kind of cleanup of your task list. And then Tom's going to be showing us later on how to actually implement the cloning methodology. So do stay tuned for that. And while we're right here, I do also want to highlight some of those features that Carl alluded to earlier with this latest release of ImagineTime. One of our biggest ones, and let me go to one of these 1120s. One second.
Select that first one in the list there.
Yep. So if I put a date in here for info received, it's going to prompt me to automatically assign the assignment date to the same date that the info is received, which is today in this case, since I just auto-filled it. So if I say yes here, it will automatically assign that task for today. And then the 1120 is also set up to where we still have that relay methodology that I believe Fred mentioned earlier, or maybe it was Tom. So when we complete this task, the next task is assigned, and then we complete this task, the next task is assigned. So you don't see all these subtasks at once, you just see them whenever they're actually, you know, it's kind of like a just-in-time task. You see it whenever you're actually ready to do it. One of the kind of great features that we've also implemented in this newest release is that if we look at the 1040, and we see that these are assigned from a hard date. So these were actually assigned based on the due date of the form. And now we're able to actually
drop down to the 1040s, Chad. You got to go down a couple more rows.
Sorry. Was I on 1120 still? Yep,
Yeah,
sorry about that, guys. So all of these assignment dates are actually going to be auto-populated based on an absolute date from the due date of the form. And in this latest release, it isn't a mutually exclusive decision. You can actually now mix both of these. So you're actually able to have both absolute deadlines and the relay methodology all within a single workflow, which we had a lot of clients asking for that. So that's something that we definitely wanted to get inside this latest version. And then another thing that was really a big request from a lot of our clients was the inclusion of routing sheets. So if you guys wanted to have a routing sheet for, you know, manual tracking of all of your tasks, so you could have things like, you know, folders floating around the office with these attached to the front. If I run this report with the routing sheets, I don't want to print all those. This is what they look like. You can page through them. You guys can print them off as you would like. And then while I'm in this section, I would also like to highlight our detailed tracking reports for the tasks. So these actually include the detailed tracking history, which is essentially going to be what the folks with the workflow module will be able to have. So if you're kind of new to the workflow module, this might be something that you're unfamiliar with. So if we run this report, I can actually see where every single subtask is, like who is it assigned to, when is it due, when was it assigned, where are we in the status, any comments, other details like budget to actual.
And Chad, I have a question, Chad. Is that report based upon the current filter set that you did up top?
Yeah, the report's based on the filter set that we did back here in the manage and edit deadlines. It's basically a report of this list that you see on the right. And then it is dynamic. So if I were to go now complete one of these tasks and run that report again, it would no longer show up in here if I had that incomplete filter that we had on. And you're able to page through and see all those. But guys, honestly, I think that's all I've got on this side of things. I don't think I saw anything coming on the Q&A. So unless I missed something, I think that we are ready to turn it over to Tom, and he can actually show us how to set up these subtasks and status levels so you guys are able to really get the most value from them.
Hey, Chad, it's Carl. And jump back in. First off, I'm remiss, I did not introduce you. Chad Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, is recently joined ImagineTime as our head of product management. And again, we're very grateful that he agreed to join us. He's got a tremendous amount of knowledge, both on accounting software, but business process in general. So great asset to the team. And we threw him into the fire here to present to 1,000 people on a product that he's been using probably shorter than anybody else on the call. So he did a great job, and thank you for that, Chad.
Hey, I appreciate it. It's a and it's my pleasure to be here, guys.
two other things. I do want to remind you for Q&A, please do submit any questions or comments that you might have. And then finally, I am going to launch another quick poll related to our due date and our workflow product. We have hundreds of clients that use due date and workflow, but not everyone. So we wanted to find out what the mix is. And if you would take a minute just to submit your answer there to that question. Back to you, Tom.
Okay, and I'm going to get control.
Tom, while you're in here, Thomas, while you're in here, you just want to show the short report for people that don't have workflow?
Oh yeah, yeah. And if you don't want a 50-page report, you can. And okay, hang on, I got to get my control back here. Chad still got it, I believe. Chad, let me have the mouse for a second here.
And I've also assumed that everybody knows Tom Freeman, but that's probably a bad assumption. So Tom Freeman is the general manager of our Rutherfordton, North Carolina office. He is been with the company 14 years. There's only one person on the planet that knows the product better than Tom, and that's Fred Lindsley, who wrote the product. Fred will be joining. Fred's on the line and will be speaking next. But I assumed everyone knows Tom, but Tom, you've got the best when Tom Freeman's speaking.
Okay, I appreciate that intro. Yeah, one other report I would mention here, if you don't want as much detail, you can run a summarized report, if you will. Oops, and I've still got some other things cut on there. Uncheck these boxes. And here's a shortened report. Shows you the primary note, shows you the last status level that was marked completed for each item. So it gives you the basic status as of right now. And of course, a lot shorter report than showing all the detail. So if you do want just the summarized information, you do have that available quickly as well. Now, going to go over and actually going to jump over to setup and utilities and due date setup and utilities here, and talk a little bit about setting up those due date items and the assigning calculated assigned dates, relay methodology of dates, that type thing. And we'll look, matter of fact, we'll use the 1120 as an example here. If I scroll down to my 1120, and I've got that set up here, and I've got it for user-defined subtask. And what that means is, and that's using the workflow methodology. And if I come over to master status levels and subtask, user-defined, and right here are the steps that I have set up for my 1120 to go through. Now, I can put a date in a step here, and it will have the assigned date that many days before the overall due date of the task. I have the 1120 set up strictly on relay. So as we saw earlier there, when I mark step 1 completed, it automatically fills in the assigned date for step 2. Now, I could actually have a hard calculated assigned date in the middle of this, even if I wanted to, or if I always wanted it to start 15 days before the assigned date, I could do that. That would be, it would always have an assigned date 15 days before the overall due date on the first step if I do that. So quite a bit of flexibility in how you can set it up there. Also, one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit here is, and Chad alluded to it, the cloning of items, which basically lets you roll your due date list from year to year. And I'm going to come out of this utility and go over to periodic cloning. Oops, and it's fussing at me because I...
And on the cloning, folks, we get more calls at the end of the year, the beginning of the next on cloning than anything else. So please pay close attention. This will be recorded and we will post it on the website, and it'll be on that knowledge base that I highlighted earlier. We love taking your calls and we don't mind it, but you probably would like to get your questions answered as fast as possible. And this will be recorded so you'll know how to do the clone tasks.
Okay. In essence, as I mentioned, what this does is roll things over to the following year for me. I can, and I'm going to clone based on the due date of the original item. So I'm going to clone everything that was 01, 15 through 12/31/15 because of the due date data that I have here in my demo. Now, I could select individual forms, but I'm going to roll everything forward. And there's quite a few options here. Do I want the assigned staff and managers to copy forward to next year? Do I want the budgets to copy forward? And these are self-explanatory here, but it's options for how much information I want rolled over to next year's task. Do I want my primary notes, that type of thing. And down here, some options about how I want the detail tracking. If I want staff assignments, that type of thing to roll forward. And you can't even copy the detailed task comments to next year's if you need to. This is a procedure that allows me, and I'm going to click here to begin. And yes, I want to start a new cloning. And the reason for this question is I could get part of the way through this, and I'll show you, I could run some reports, come out, review those, come back and finish up by saying no here. I'm going to say yes, I'm starting a new one. And reminds me here that I've got 64 tasks I'm cloning from this date range. And have to have a partner assigned to the client for it to get cloned. And there's no forms because I've already done that date range. Everything from that date range has already been cloned. The system will not let me accidentally do multiple clones and end up with Tom having 5, 10, 40s assigned to him next year. So I can come back to here and change my dates. And again, yes, I want to start a new clone. And this screen lets me see a list of everything that's getting ready to roll over. Now, I can actually print a report out here, and I can print that by partner. I can do sorting on these columns. I can click in any field here and sort by that column. The printed report will honor those sorts that I've done on the screen here. I can do some filtering from here if I wanted to. But I could print a report by partner, give it to them, let them review it, get one with, highlights on it, don't clone this forward. I can come in and uncheck the OK box for items I don't want to clone for whatever reason. I can reassign primary staff managers, that type of thing right from here. But when I get everything reviewed, click here to clone and building my detail, and I've got 87 items there, and I just cloned them all to the following year. Now, I will say the following year, there's one exception there. For task, you can actually have things that don't happen every year. And if I've cloned something that just happens once every 5 years, it rolls it 5 years out in the schedule. But that is the cloning procedure. Pretty straightforward, and I always recommend do a backup of your data file before you do the clone. If you don't like the way it cloned, you can restore the backup and start over again. Also, the one other thing I will mention while I'm here is that there is a, I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah, and that's if you, a lot of our people that have moved to the cloud have the workflow management module now that didn't have that in the past, or people may have added it to their desktop as well. But if you are just beginning to use the workflow module, the clone time is a good time to redesign the tracking if you want to go to the more detailed tracking of the workflow that offers you that relay methodology, that type thing. This is an excellent time to do that because you could, and you got a couple of choices. You could rename the old task, create a new task using the relay methodology, and assign that to clients in bulk through the client quick setup right here. Or you could just redo the methodology on the existing task. You will lose some of the tracking detail on the completed old items. If they haven't been completed, it won't change them, but anything going forward will be under the new methodology that you set up. So that's the main things that I wanted to touch on there. And actually, hopefully I've covered that sufficiently. I'm going to hand it over to Fred now because Fred is going to talk a little bit about the client quick setup and some of the utilities that we have in the due date system. So hey, Fred, if you will.
I'm sorry, I keep doing this. I keep doing this to you, Thomas. We have 3 questions that I thought are pertinent to your section, before we kick it over to Fred. And we're doing well on time. So Suzanne asks, are the assigned and in-process fields new with the updated version?
Actually, the assign and the in-process fields are part of the workflow management module.
Got it.
So if you have just basic due date tracking on the desktop, those will not be there. If you have, if you're on the cloud or if you're on desktop and you have due date and workflow, you will have those steps there.
Good. The next one from Megan, can you assign a task to multiple employees? Example, the review of 1040 to 2 employed, and whom is able to get to it first?
You can't assign a single step to 2 employees. When you're setting up your sub-task, if you will, there, you would probably want to have 2 phases there so that you could assign each phase of the review to different staff. But it is 1 staff per, and I'm going to go back over to the manage edit deadlines. And when I'm here, it is 1 staff per step that you have set up. Now these steps with the workflow are totally customizable. You could have 3 steps for something, you could have 40 steps for something. It's totally up to you how many steps the process involves.
Very good. And then lastly, Tom, actually a very good question that we may have skipped over. Could someone give a general description of the workflow product?
Yes, what the workflow product allows you to do, it allows you, with the basic due date tracking on desktop, you have the ability to track pretty much any type of task, but you have a standard set of status levels here, and you just have a date for each level completed. You don't have the individual staff assignments for each process. With the basic work due date, you have a primary staff and manager for each task, but you do not have the staff assignment at the individual steps. So the workflow module gives you the ability to customize these process steps by the type of task. It also gives you the ability to assign individual staff to each individual step of the process.
Okay, very good, Tom. And we'll have some time here at the end to answer more questions. Let's kick it over to Fred.
Okay, and let me hand remote control over to Fred here.
And again, for those that don't know Fred Lindsley, Fred's the founder of ImagineTime. He ran multiple accounting firms in his time, and in the late 90s, he wrote this software for his own firm, and was so successful he started the company and spent the last 20 years running a software company. So Fred's,
hey everybody, hope you're having a great day today. Thank you, Carl.
Sure.
Okay, there's a secret feature here to one of the people that just asked. POW is a prisoner of war, by the way. Let's see, review. If you do need to have 2 people reviewing a return, it's not going to establish any priority, but it will allow you to have 2 people work on the same step, and the task will not be completed until both of those steps are completed. So that's a little known feature. It's not documented, but since somebody asked, I'm probably the only one that knows that. So at any rate, the other thing that, real quickly, one of our, Tina, I think, wrote in today asking about some things, and she asked if she had a short period return, could she do something different with the date? Well, she could override the date right here. And that would, it's going to pop them out in red, but if you do have a short period return and you typically set them up as annual and you want to attenuate or shorten the date, that's the way to do that. There was one other quick thing that I'm going to answer that's in the flow of everything. Under reporting, as you can see, we can report from this screen, but when you go to the master due date reporting screen, on that screen, you have an export checkbox. So every report on that screen will export to a data sheet that can then be copied and pasted into Excel. And I would encourage Tina to just go ahead and touch base with our support department on those other questions that she has, because I think we've pretty much got them all covered. I'm going to close this. Well, you'll notice that we can't have several screens open. Generally speaking, kind of limited to 6 or 7. We have some clients that will have 12 open. You can run out of memory on that. So on client quick setup, the whole deal here is that you've established client groupings by client type. So client type would be a corporate, a 1040, so on down this list here, 1065. A business client could incorporate several services. So maybe on a business client, we do on 1120. I'm having the same problem that Jet had. Okay, so we pick the 1120 and holding down the shift key. And maybe we also do some bookkeeping work. So you need to be, or a financial statement, something like that. And we're going to do it for 2019. And you select all your business clients. So I'm just holding down the shift key now. Now, if you've created a slate of activities like I have on the left, they're all going to be copied in for the 2019 year to whatever clients I select here. So this does require creativity with your creation of a client type, because if you have a business client type with and without payroll, you should change the acronym. Now, client types can be set up on the fly in the Manage Edit Client screen, but you can also, over here in your Setup Utilities, under Company Information, you can set them up here, and it's on this Options tab. I think our lookup lists. Right about that, Tom?
Yes.
Where are they here?
Client contact type.
Pick it out for
Right
me,
there.
will you?
You're there.
Okay, thank you. Here they are. But I would be as creative as possible if you're going to use this cloning utility, simply because you can really articulate. Now, I would add more items on the left than you need, and then once you've cloned or copied, you can then just weed out the items that don't belong to certain clients. And since you have all those powerful filters in there, it's pretty easy to do that. One thing to mention also, when we're doing the cloning, we're actually copying items. And that leads into my next thing that I wanted to cover. Not necessarily in the order that I wanted to cover them, but when you delete history, why would you delete history? Well, when you do a cloning, it takes the item from the previous year and makes a copy of it to the next year. It doesn't delete the prior history. That's very useful, because when you go back to do a repeat 1040, you can review the notes and you can see when they brought the information in the previous year. You can eliminate a lot of controversy and dispute and establish better client relationships by having the facts right at your fingertips. So here, what we're going to do is maybe delete some prior tax forms for a selected tax year. And, you know, I don't know, you probably, if you have 2013 items in your due date system, they're probably all completed. If there's some of them that aren't, because you have somebody that walked in the door and hasn't filed, just check that box and it won't remove that item. It will ask you to do a backup, and then it will purge the ones that are not complete. And you should do that both for forms and tasks. I'd also recommend you get rid of the notes. There's no point in holding on to those. Next item, not real exciting, but if you have a staff person leave the firm, you can reassign staff managers and actually push that right down to the workflow module. So in the simplest case, you could select a particular task, or you could just say everything that Fred did now belongs to POW. If you leave this blank, it's going to do it for all clients that have Fred scheduled as the staff at the main task level. If you pick certain clients out, it's just going to do a limited reassignment. This is a very powerful utility. There's turnover in CPA firms. So if you're using the due date system, read the help manual, use this utility. It's very strong. Let's see if there's, You should run this diagnostic report. It should come up like this with nothing, because your clients should not have missing year ends. In the event of a state, it should not have a missing date of death. So go ahead and feel free to run that. It doesn't cause any harms. This next item over here is not relevant anymore. If you set up a new task and it has subtask assignments, if you're switching it over, it's going to populate the new ones. Let me be clearer. Let's say 1040s, you didn't have workflow, but now you do, and you have a lot of steps. It's automatically going to create steps for the 1040s that are not complete. It's going to leave the ones that are completed alone. We used to have to do that manually. Now it does it automatically, so you don't really need this. It's redundant. This is useful in conjunction with a call to our support department. If you notice in our program, we have both status levels. This is a legacy feature that came out of our original due date system written over 10 years ago. When we advanced to workflow, we kept the status levels so you can flow through those because many people were using these. Sometimes these get out of sequence, these status levels. So this utility, if they're not behaving properly, is designed to put them back in order, but you shouldn't use it without calling our support department. One other thing, user-defined tasks are very much more flexible than the status levels. Status levels work nicely for tax returns, but these, I would encourage any other type of activity, to consider using these user-defined items. Now, if there are any questions on any of that, I'm going to jump out of that and go quickly into the permissions. I'm going to close a couple of these screens. And I think I already had that screen open. Yeah. The permissions are very important for firms that aren't wide open. And I say that because a lot of firms are. They don't mind people having access to everything. But if your firm is a little on the larger side and you're hiring new people and they're hitting the tax season, you need to go into these permissions here and possibly prevent them from allowing deletes of items or prevent them from reassigning items. Those are some of the really big ones. You also may want to prevent them from having access to the Manage Edit Deadline screen and only give them access if you have the workflow module to this notification screen, because they can go in here and complete stuff and write notes and do time entry. So they can pretty much do everything they need. And believe me, if they have these many deadlines past due, they won't be working for you anymore. So this is pretty good for a basic staff person that you haven't built up, I don't know, there was that movie, you haven't built up the circle of trust yet. So right here is where you do that in the due date screen. There is some very good help online, and I encourage you to definitely use these permissions. It's beyond the scope of this to actually implement this right now. But I want you to be aware of it. I think that covers, did I miss anything on the permissions, Tom, that you would like to add?
No, and actually, we probably need to jump into a little bit about year-end reports for the time and billing side of things.
Okay. We're skipping engagements, but I do want to mention that the due date system is so granular that you can track due dates by task and engagement. Engagements are basically set up under, you set up your master engagement here. And then you implement them on the client screen. And engagements can be done by year, or they can be more like a lawyer. They can be an open-ended engagement. But you can have a grouping of tasks within an engagement. That presents a very powerful scenario. I just want to mention that now, and it is they get instantiated in the client screen. So now, year-end reports. Okay, one of the first ones to go over would be the client snapshot. There's an interesting story about this. I had a partner that, he just never came to work. This was back in 1980s, and he had an awful lot of work in progress. So the first thing we did was we got ourselves a time and billing system. We had 15 staff, and we asked, let's call him John. We ran this work in process for John, just for John, and all his WIP was over 90, all of it. Okay, and we also noticed when we ran an aging that a lot of his AR was pretty stale. We ran a client account balance report just for Jack. Okay, let's pick one partner out. And this gave us kind of the ratio of what was billed to what was, how do I page down on this, Tom? I'm getting, I got this taskbar on the, well, I can't see the navigation button, but I'm doing the page down key. Can you page through to the end of this report for me, Tom? Because I've got the, please. Okay. So point of what I'm showing you here is that this client has, this particular partner has 57,000 billed. He has $137,000 unbilled, and only 49,000 is a hedge against that. What do I mean by that is that some of that time has been progress billed. He really hasn't come to a point of reckoning in determining if his detailed WIP report is fully recoverable, but he knows the client will take at least a $9,000 or $10,000 invoice up to this point. I see so many firms like this, the partners don't really know where they stand with their other partners. So the first important thing to do is to age your WIP and then force everything to get cleared out. If the time can't be billed, it needs to be written off at the end of the year. If the time can be billed, it should be billed on a final bill or a super bill with a final bill template so that you can close out the time against a particular invoice. It's better to close the time against an invoice. You get better realization reporting. Okay, so once you've done those steps, I know I covered a lot there, but stale WIP and aged accounts receivable, it's very important to address those situations. Then you can run this productivity snapshot, and that's basically what we did in our firm. And what we found out with John, let's call him, is that his realization rates were 30 and 40%, that most everything was over 90 days that was still left. He had a lot of bad debts. Look at this fourth client here. Can you maximize this report for me, Tom, a little bit? Zoom in on it, because I do not have the navigation bar on the bottom. Thank you. This last client looks like he's got good realization, 113%, but he never pays his invoices. It's outstanding over 1,000 days. So John has never written off the invoices. The good client here is Mastiff Kennel Club, outstanding 43 days, decent realization, 239%, an average rate of $306 an hour. And it looks like from the AR here that nothing's too stale. So you need all those factors together: average days to collect, bad debts, what's the current aging on both the WIP and the AR, and what's the average realization rate. When you have all those things together, you can make an accurate and informed judgment about how good your client is and how well your partner is managing his or her clients. Another important report, and I think we have about 5 minutes left, so we have enough time. I'll close this and we'll close that. Also, by the way, before I leave this is a painful report because you can run it by chargeable time. And boy, if you run this report by chargeable time, and that's going to show the biggest clients first, and I hope they have good stats. So I would encourage you to look at this report in more than one way. Now, going over to daily monthly reports, I'm going to jump into this first. For those of you that feel a little left behind because I'm racing through this, feel free to go into this screen and read all these captions and say, gee, I was interested in that realization stuff, staff realization, and it'll tell you a little bit about it. If you check the checkbox, it'll take you right to the report interface and set it up for you. You won't have to think it through. So where we're going to go today, though, is a very popular report under daily monthly report, under performance, and we're going to do client tab activity. I'm sorry, client invoiced amounts. Now this is everything, you know, there's 3 ways to measure realization. In reverse order, paid realization, that's when I only want to know how well I did on invoices that were paid. Invoiced realization is, most of the time my staff collects their invoices, so I'm going to trust the invoice. So this right here is invoiced realization. Over here is paid realization. So if I run this report, and could you expand it a little bit, Tom? Because I just can't grab that bar at the bottom. Okay, thank you. All Rise Robes and Tassels has had $1,000 of write-downs roughly. Net invoice $5,300. You can put labor costs in the program. It is a fairly static thing. You have to update it, but it will give you some idea of your gross profit. The number of hours, the realized amount per hour, and the realized percentage. And this is based upon what you've actually invoiced. So in the case of my partner, John, I really couldn't completely trust this report because half the stuff that he invoiced wasn't paid. But if you've got a quality firm and you manage things well, this is a really good go-to report. And if you'd like to see a breakdown of the services on these invoices, you go back to the main screen and you choose work codes. And Tom, could you expand that, please? Now I can see a breakdown within that $6,000. Where did I do my best and worst? Well, I took a pretty big write-off on the corporate return. I realized $300 off on that. So you get a lot more information. And this, again, is based upon what's been invoiced. We looked at the WIP summary just quickly to tell you, to get back to those summary reports, pre-billing report
by work code.
Say again, Tom.
Run this same report by work, broken down by work code instead of client. It's a good overall firm.
Go ahead. You pick. Well, just tell me. This one. Which option do you want me to choose? That one? Okay. Is this the one?
Yeah, because this gives you overall for the firm here by type of service.
I didn't even remember I wrote that report, Tom. But this is a really good report, and I do remember writing it now. It also shows you the ratio of your chargeable and your non-chargeable components, which I like. And we have a staff time report that shows the staff production for a year and individually by staff the ratio of chargeable to non-chargeable time. That's also in the daily monthly reports. Any comment you wanted to make about this, Tom?
No, because we're just about out of time here. And I think Carl did want to do a little bit right here at the end.
We'll wrap up. Okay, great. Well, pleasure talking to everybody, and look forward to the coming year, and good luck with your year-end planning.
Thank you as always, Fred. Really appreciate it. And yeah, that we're at the end of our training session. I hope that this was valuable to everyone. I want to reiterate that this is recorded. We will be sending out an email with the recording, but also it will be posted on our website for you to review at any time. I do want to close by mentioning we do have a special offer for those of you that don't have the workflow or the due date product. We are including it at no additional charge in our cloud offering. So we've had hundreds of clients move to the ImagineTime cloud this year. Reason being, it's a lot faster. You can use it really as obviously mobile. You can use it from home. A lot of the challenges you might have sometimes with the repair and compact, those issues are resolved. But a lot of things that being on the cloud removes. But in this context, we are going to include anyone that's interested in due date or workflow. It's included in our cloud product at no charge. So we do want to make sure that you're aware of that. Again, we're very grateful that you take so much time to attend these trainings. We're going to continue to do them on a regular basis. This one was focused on year end, so the next one will be additional topics. The billing and the super bills in particular continue to be an interesting topic. So next time around, we'll probably hit that a little bit more deeply. Any questions or topics you want us to hit, please pass them along. And again, thank you to everyone for attending.